All right, so our experiment has been done. We have 5 gallons of cinnamon apple cider. And one of a very strange experiment that probably gonna need to age for quite a while. On this one, it's pineapple juice, black cherry juice, apple juice, and some coconut milk, which I suggest not using coconut milk. Use coconut flake. Coconut milk turns rather disgusting looking, and it also limits you how much you can take. So normally you have a layer of leaves on the bottom. You also have a layer of coconut milk floating on top. So we had to kind of fight with that. So lesson learned. Won't be doing that again. Hopefully it imbibed a little bit of flavor into it. Don't know. The next time we'll use coconut flake. So we did our regular batches that we know is tried and true of the Premier Blanc champagne yeast with just raw sugar, regular sugar, and apple juice, and everything in here had 2 cinnamon sticks. So this has been going for a week or 2 weeks now. I think it's 2 weeks.
I don't remember. Math.
I know it was a Thursday, so it's either a week and a day or 2 weeks and a day.
Or like one day, because today's Friday.
It might be. Yeah, this 1 hour felt like 2 days, and this day felt like 3 hours, and so. Then we have the apple juice with the half brown sugar, half raw sugar with the Premier Blanc champagne yeast. And then we have the 2 over here experiments with the 71B yeast, which one's brown sugar, one's raw sugar. They both foamed a whole lot more than the rest of them did for some reason. I don't know if it's because of the aggressiveness of the yeast itself or it's just a different beast in it. But flocculation happened on all of them, where they all had a nice yeast cake in the bottom. And I'll be harvesting the yeast from all these bottles and actually reuse it. I'm actually gonna mix this, so it's gonna be kind of a hybrid. We'll see which one wins out. So this one is our tried and true. Smells like our tried and true. Tastes like our tried and true. You can try it?
I will. Later.
You can finish all these off?
Yes.
This is the brown sugar one, which actually smells smoother. It's not as sharp. Interesting. Wow, what a different flavor profile. Yeah. I did not expect for just a half a brown sugar dark brown sugar to make that much of a difference, but it definitely made a very significant difference. It's smoother on the tongue a little bit, but it has more of a alcohol bite on the sides of the tongue. It's very odd, very cool. And then I'm gonna try our tried and true, but with the 71B yeast. That was about the same. I think I like it better than the Blanc. It's not as dry, which champagne yeast actually technically goes a little bit drier. So this is supposed to hold more of the fruity flavors, the fruity esters and all that crap. It's supposed to hold more of the fruit flavor. So, and I think it actually did. Yeah, this is dangerous. This is kind of like apple juice, but not. All these have had 1 tube of frozen apple concentrates juice thawed out and poured into them to back sweeten them and filled the headspace from what we left over in the jugs. So that makes up for the volume difference, and it also actually gives you more apple flavor and gives you some more sweetness. So this is the brown sugar one. Yeah, it smells different too. Big difference in the flavor again. Yeah, I think you're gonna trip out when you try this. This one, you can almost taste the molassesy flavor. It smells richer, smells darker. If that makes sense. I don't know if you can smell dark or smell light. It's like, soap flavors. But the 71B is definitely, I think I'm going to go to that from now on. It's a smoother. Now for the rocket fuel. Oh, actually, I smell the pineapple in it now. I think it's degassed a little bit. It's not as footy smelling either.
It smells like feet.
Well, you get hydrogen sulfides, and so that rotten egg smell, but that's just a typical off-gassing from your doing fruits. But yeah, I don't smell it like I did when I first poured it in here, so I think it's degassed a little bit. I'm scared. Oh, that's actually kind of pleasant. I didn't do the. Definitely alcoholic, but I can taste the fruit juices in it. So the 71B once again held the flavors of the fruit, so that's very cool. I think it's gonna be kicking when it's aged. I'm actually back sweeten with a little honey or something to make it a little richer on the tongue, a little thicker on the tongue. But the smell compared to the flavors, not the same. I guess I would compare it to like a funky cheese that you don't want to smell, but as soon as you taste it, it tastes really good, but it smells like ass.
Feet.
Yeah, it's not my favorite smell, that's for sure, but the flavor on it, it's not bad. I can see that over ice, actually. So anytime that you're done fermenting, you have what they call flocculation happens, which you get a yeast cake in the bottom down there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to backwash all these, especially since they've only been in here for 7 days or 15 days, not quite sure yet, or 8 days or 15 days. But basically you backwash all this, put it in some good water, let it sit, and flocculation of all the yeast cake will actually sit to the bottom. And the water on top of that is actually your good active yeast. Now there is good active yeast inside of the dead yeast and stuff that's on the bottom, but there's more things than that can give you off-putting flavors, so you don't technically save that aspect of it. You can actually make another drink out of it just using these. So if we took this, swirled it around really good, poured it into a fresh batch of cider, it would actually make another hard apple cider. And you can continue on that way and on that way, but the more leaves you get, the more dead yeast, more dead bodies, the chances of an off flavor happen more and more. So, and then the chances of mutation and all that too, depending on what's going on in your apple cider and your sugars and stuff. So there is some downsides to it, but saving the yeast is basically just washing it, whatever floats on top, you pour that out, let that sit again, and then what settles in the bottom that time technically is the good yeast, and then you just pour the water off of that, take the good yeast out, put it in the dehydrator, no more than 90 degrees, maybe 100, 110 at the very hottest for a dehydrator, but typically around 80 degrees for 4 or 5 hours, dries it out, powder it up, and you have yourself dry yeast again. I know it sounded semi-complicated and semi-easy at the same time. By the look on my wife's face. I get it, but I don't. So yeah, I don't want to waste this yeast, but I'm actually going to mix them. So it's going to be a 71B and the champagne yeast. So I'm curious what's going to win out on the next batch that we do that I use it on. So, but then we have the wondrous honey. Some yummy stuff. So I ended up picking up 5 quarts of it from one of our local guys that we've known for about 15 years or so. And so I'm gonna make a hydromel mead, honey wine, but it's a quick ferment, so it should be ready for Halloween. And then I'm gonna do probably a melomel, which is a fruit-based mead. I have blueberries and strawberries over there. Then I'm gonna do a cider, but it's gonna be spiced, so it's kind of like a methagin. I never said that one. So basically spiced mead, but it's going to have apples in it. So when you put apple juice in it, it becomes a cider. Once again, meads are complicated, but it's all honey wine. As long as you use honey, yeast, and water, it's a mead. When you add things to it, it changes it to the name of whatever off branch they want to call it. Yeah, there's all sorts of different funky names for things. But I'm going to do, like I said, a hydromel, which is a very light mead. I'll do a basic mead, which is a thicker mead with more honey in it. Then I'm going to, like I said, do the melomel with the fruit, and then a cider with the apple. But what my friend Troy on here is I throw some cinnamon in it. You won't regret it, so I'll throw some cinnamon in it. Cinnamon in it. The thing with regular meads though is they take a little bit longer. They're just like any other, they're typically done 4 weeks or so, where these are done in a week or 2 weeks at the most. Most of these guys with the meads will be anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, or sorry, 3 weeks to a month, month and a half, depending on temperature and everything else and your concentrations of what your ratios that you're putting in. But then at that point, then you rack them into another bottle, let them sit for a little while, make sure fermentation's pretty much stopped, and then you can bottle them up. And then sometimes they're good when they're young, they're green. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes you're going to let them age for 3 months, 6 months, a year. There's one that I'm watching that I can't think of the guy on YouTube, but he has one that literally is 5 years old and it's still hot. He has no idea what he did wrong with it, honestly. He did something wrong there. And he admits it, but he don't know what he did. This is when he first started making mead. But most of his stuff is ready to drink in a couple months, depending on what you do with it. And the more things you add to it, it changes your timelines, and also what your preference is. Some people like rocket fuel. I mean, some people like the hotter, greener stuff. I'd rather have it more mellow, sweet, good drink than something that makes you, like I said, do the face. Our next one that we'll do is the rice wine, which is coming along great. So it's got to be 2 weeks now, because our rice wine, it has to be 2 weeks. I did it on the same day, and there's a good separation now, and nothing happened for the first 5 days. So yeah, so it's got to be 2 weeks. So I figure 2 weeks. So these were done. These were done within about 4 or 5 days ago, but they let them sit. So it's about 15 days now total, I think. The rice wine, which might let them go 1 more week and then we'll test them out, or I might just get ahead of schedule and try them this weekend because I'm impatient and I want to try it and see if we like it. So, but either way, it should be ready for Halloween at least. So it's gonna be an interesting party. Gonna be a lot of apple going on. But Rebecca, you can't have any. I'm just gonna throw that out there right now.
Oh, that's cold.
Nah, yeah, shouldn't mess with me. Retaliation is neither equal nor fair. It is just that, retaliation. So, BYOB, honey. And stay happy. Bye.